Shalom, 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 shalom. First and foremost, giving infinite praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh by Hashem, Yahushua by Hashem, V'chakodash, and giving double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone and Shalom, and salutation to all you sincere Akim across the four winds, pushing his truth with sincerity of heart. I'm your fellow servant, Kasamagan from the DC camp, coming at you through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Hashem, Yahushua by Hashem, V'chakodash, and feed the elect. Now, in this quick lesson, we're going to talk about and I'm going to title this lesson something to the effect of the Black Judas, Rise of the False Prophets. And of course, I'm talking about the COINTELPRO. And I'm going to say this. Of course, I don't have any concrete evidence or concrete proof that, these guys, in particular, this particular guy, of Genesis, Genesis Israelite, the deacon, splurging out here, with G-Wagons and whatnot and shit like that, but I know from, again, me being heavily involved into like watching conspiracy theories and diving deep into the CIA and how they move, COINTELPRO, it just smells like it. And if you've seen this movie, Judas and the Black Messiah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Every organization, every belief, you will always have treasonous individuals that have actually sold out. All right, they've actually sold out. It's not just that, their mind is off and they just prophesying things because of a misunderstanding of the scriptures. It's just actually like they've completely bought off. All right, and this is something that is unfortunate, but it happens. Now, this particular stream right here, I don't know, this is actually live. I don't know if they're still live, but I was listening just a little bit. I just couldn't bear to hear it, because it's clear signs of COINTELPRO. The title about salvation is not only for Israelites. It proves us wrong. And they kind of go in a lot of debate, and then this particular title, I don't know if they got it over, because they had something that they wrote. Let me see.
Galatians, I think.
Yeah, because I believe he's still alive. Man, I'm not trying to play that nonsense. Trying to again, trying to find ways to have the heathens. But anyway, I don't see it. But it was something about that they were talking about how you have the Gentiles or heathens in their minds, right? The nations that basically were allies to us, and how they would actually be saved because they were allies to the nation of Israel. And then they said that the nations, heathens that were against us, that they're gonna be, he called them the wicked Gentiles, that they're gonna be the ones that enslaved, basically. And it's just like, it's like saying you have righteous heathens and you have a wicked heathens. You know what I'm saying? Like, righteousness is according to primarily faith, but it's also according to the law, statutes, commandments, which were given only to the nation of Israel. And just because we had nations in the past that were temporarily allies to us for warfare purposes, it doesn't mean that they're going to be safe. When you read the book of 1 Samuel, David got together with King Achish, if I'm saying it right, King Achish. Right, if I'm saying it right, he was the king of the Philistines at the time, where David was exiled because he was running away from Saul. So he basically went into the land amongst the Philistines, and he dwelt there for a little while. And he was helping, he was fighting battles with and for the king, because David was being wise and he was being a supplanter to survive. So they had a small temporary alliance. But then when it was time for the Philistines to go to war against Israel, the Philistines wanted no business with David because Achish, his lords, his vassals, they didn't feel comfortable fighting alongside David against the nation of Israel. So they're like, nah, we can't fight with David on our sides, on our ranks, because he might turn on us. Now, just because David had a small temporary truce of alliance with with that king of the Philistines didn't mean that all of a sudden the Philistines are going to make it into the kingdom. So there's no such thing as righteous heathens because of an alliance that a particular nation or group might have had with us, and wicked heathens. All right, there's no such thing. Right. And then again, these are some of the games that are being played, right? Damnable heresies, because again, these are, it's that whole Black Judas bullshit. Right. right? It's the whole, because when I say Black Judas, as you already know, Judas was a so-called black man. The only reason why I use that is because, for the, just because, of course, the majority of people in this world, they still don't understand that the whole story of the Bible is about so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And when you're talking about what happened in the land of Jerusalem in the New Testament, it was really so-called Negroes, all right, which in particular, the so-called Negroes, West Indians, and Haitians, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, which were so-called black men. All right, so Judas was a so-called black man. Yahushua, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, was a so-called black man. All right, so these are treasonous acts, but by people that are according to a pro. So that's basically what they're discussing in this particular live in pre-Genesis mode. They believe that the nations that had a temporary alliance with the nation of Israel, and different times of warfare, basically they're gonna be saved, and then the nations that were against us, they're gonna be enslaved, which is total nonsense. All right, it's just a different angle to be, basically to bring about damnable heresies. This is 2 Peter 2:1. It says the rise of false prophets. It says, but they were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, all right, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies. All right, privily meaning they're conjuring up. This is not something that dude was just in the bed and kind of like, woke up and it was like, well, I'm just gonna bring this out. Nah, this is something that they actually read and study because they bought and paid for. They read and study for the sake of conjuring up and bringing up damnable heresies that they know is gonna try to confuse the elect. I mean, this is a conscious, and that's the thing that's really hard for hopeful elect to accept, a conscious effort from an Israelite to derail the truth. All right, there's such a thing as a conscious effort from Israelites to derail the truth, and hoping that if they derail the truth, then therefore salvation is not going to take place, and they can keep getting paid. All right, they can take that purse and continue to enjoy life. And you see in their ways, right? Dudes is out here splurging, winning, making a lot of money. All right. And then you hear, and then you have Jacob talking about, well, repent. And I was meditating upon it. I was like, well, a man is not going to repent from what makes him happy. All right. What brings you joy and happiness is going to be what you're seeking for. You're never going to repent from what brings you joy and happiness. All right. If winning in this world is, if having things in this world and winning in this society, if that is the thing that brings you happiness and joy, you would never repent. You would do whatever it takes to keep that. It's like you telling an Israelite, a hopeful elect, to repent from worshiping Yahweh by Shemel Shah. Nah, that's where our joy and happiness lies. So we would never repent. We would do everything it takes. So, hoping that a false prophet repents is craziness to me. It's lack of understanding reality. All right. It's lack of accepting reality. It's not really understanding. It's lack of accepting reality. 2 Peter 2:1. But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Lord Yahweh that bought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction. All right. It says, and many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. All right. So the way of truth is being evil spoken of. It says, and through covetousness shall they with feigned word. What is covetousness? Is it goes back to that greed, to that envy. Is wanting things of this world. Because an individual wants a G-Wagon, an individual wants a Ferraris, he wants to be rubbing elbows with the big dogs in this society, because he's covetous of the things of this world, he is willing to do what? He is willing to use feigned words and make merchandise of you, make merchandise of the scriptures, and make merchandise of you. All right. And those things that he's doing, yes, as evil and wicked. Why? Because we trust in Yahweh by Shemel Shah, but to them, it is joy and happiness. And a man would never repent from whatever brings him joy and happiness. If that's wickedness, that man is going to be, that's the core of really righteousness and wickedness, upon meditation, is realizing whatever brings you joy and happiness, you'll never repent from that. All right. Others, we might call it sin, and it is sin. But if sin is bringing people joy and happiness, they'll never repent from that. regardless of what you say. That this is just the reality of it. All right, you just have to accept it. It says, whose judgment now of a long time lingereth not, and their damnation slumbereth not. So let's look up heresies, doctrine or opinion at variance with established standards. So we have established standards. All right, the elect are going to be delivered, beginning with the 1/3, 144,000, 12,000 men from each tribe, so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. The nations, the heathens, Edom, Esau, the so-called white man, the devil that the Bible speaks of, he will be enslaved for a period of 1,000 years, and then they're going to be done away with. The remaining of the nations are going to be enslaved right along with Esau for a period of 1,000 years of hardcore slavery. After that 1,000 years, they will be given lands as vassals, what you call perpetual servants, tributes. All right, they will serve us for eternity. All right. So this is that simple. That is the standard. But now, for you to say, well, you have nations that that had a temporary alliance, they're gonna make it, and then the nations that were against us are gonna be wicked. It's garbage, because all the nations have been wicked against us. All of them have been wicked, and it doesn't even matter, because if they're not Israelites, they're not gonna be in the king. They're not gonna share the kingdom with us. They're gonna be in the kingdom as servants and slaves. So pushing that doctrine is heresy. It's damnable heresies. It's COINTELPRO. It's just what it is, man. It's high treason. All right. All right. It's a Judas mindset. All right. It says doctrinal opinion at variance with established standards, an opinion of private men, different from that of a Catholic or Orthodox church. Right. So it's really an opinion of private men different from the gospel. That's nothing but their opinion, bro. But really, what's behind it is sinister. All right, it's high treason. Matthew 24:11, it says, and many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. The fact that you're willing to betray a whole nation of your people, using false doctrine to derail the course and derail, the salvation, that is cold, man. That is evil. That is cold-blooded. Just so that you can enjoy your life in this hellhole, man. Verse 13, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Right. You have to endure. You have to endure watching these guys do what they do. You can't stop them. Right? You can't stop them. Sometimes you pray to the Lord, shut their fucking mouth, but they still talking. They're still doing what they do. So you realize that it's not, it's just it's the long game, right? You have to endure long suffering. You have to wait it out. I talked about it in my last lesson. You got to wait out the evil. All right. Sometimes you just can't stop the evil. It's too. The destiny evil's got to do what evil's got to do. You just got to endure and wait it out. All right. You got to endure and wait it out. It's just what it is. This is Isaiah chapter 5 verse 26. It says, for among my people are found wicked men. They lay wait as he that setteth snares, that set a trap, that catch men. These are COINTELPRO. All right. COINTELPRO is what? It's counterintelligence. All right. It's a counterintelligence program. So you have individuals that work for the CIA, that work for the Southern Poverty Law Center and the ADL, and they get payments. All right. They get the bag, basically. All right. And once they get the money or whatever they get given, they are able to afford the things that make them joyful and happy. All right. Just, as a hopeful elect, because the things in this world don't make you happy. Don't believe for 1 second that goes for every Israelite. You have a lot of Israelites. The majority of Israel will be completely happy and joyful if given a half of or a quarter of Esau's riches. They will give up the kingdom of heaven for a half to a quarter of Esau's riches. All right. You have to understand that. So when you projecting your righteousness onto other Israelites, you're making a mistake. The Lord has given us strong faith in the kingdom to come. And you have to accept that that's not that mentality, that mindset, that focus is not given to many. It's only given to a few. It's a gift. All right. It says, verse 27, as a cage is full of birds, so are their houses full of deceit. Therefore, they are become great and waxing rich. All right, these guys are making good money. They're making good money, bro. I promise you, they're making big money, and they're starting to see it because eventually all that money, they got to start spending the money, right? It's hard for false prophets to make a lot of money and not splurge because that's what makes them happy. When you're happy and you joyful, especially as an Israelite, guess what happens? You become more flamboyant. And that's going to be no different when it comes to the elect inheriting the kingdom. In the kingdom of heaven, we're not going to be humble. We're going to be flamboyant because that's who we are as a people. Jake is not going to work hard and bust his ass and be humble with his money and his fame and his fortune. He's going to want to show off. That's an Israelite trait. All right. So when you see a false prophet showing off his treasure, he's telling you who he is. This is what makes him happy. This is what brings him joy. All right. And if that's not the same for you, that means you're not the same. You built different. All right. So it's understanding the duality in this gospel. All right. Verse 28, they are waxing fat. They shine. See, they shine. Israelite is flamboyant. He's going to shine. And right now, the true prophets of the Lord are not shining. We can't even shine. We don't want to shine. We don't want to shine in that way. We want to shine with the word. We want to let the word shine. But our glory is going to come after Yahweh's glory is established on earth. It says they overpass the deeds of the wicked. They judge not the cause of the fatherless. Right, they don't judge the cause. They don't give a damn. They only give a fuck about, what they gain, but that's why they're going to come through and distort the gospel, try to distort the gospel for their own, their own glory. All right. The cause of the fatherless, yet they prosper, and the right of the needy do they not judge. All right. The needy are the Israelites. The elect need to be saved and delivered and established over the nations, over the heathens. But then you have guys talking about we're gonna be rubbing elbows with the heathens, the ones who had temporary alliances with Israel. Total nonsense, right? Total nonsense. Agent activity, man. COINTELPRO. It's that purse. It's that purse talked about in Matthew 26:14. Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went into the chief priests and said unto them, what will ye give me, and I will deliver him unto you? And they covenanted with him for 30 pieces of silver. You see that? That, as a believer of the Lord, of Yahweh, even in Christianity, the fact that now mind you, 30 pieces of silver it wasn't like it was nothing. But compared to like the weight of Yahweh's life and the ministry and what he was here for, 30 pieces of silver. So you looking at it like 30 pieces of silver? Like, really, Judas? Like, really? Well, that's the same mindset when you look at these guys out here, these false prophets splurging, and they bragging about what they got these, and you like, that, like, really, for that? Like, for that car, for that house, really, for that? That's the same mindset that we have, bro. But the men on the other side of this thing, they don't see it like that. To them, that's what brings them joy and happiness. And like I said, a man would never repent. That's where you get treason. All right? You get treason, man. It's just what it is, man. And from that time, he sought opportunity to betray him. All right? So treason has always been a part of any organization, any belief, anything that has importance. Mark 13:22, for false anointed and false prophets shall rise, and shall show signs and wonders to seduce, if it were possible, even the elect. So it's all about seducing. If you go my way, if you come my way, look what you can have. You can splurge with me in Babylon. Listen, we know Babylon is coming to an end. It's just that Babylon is suffering, death by 1,000 cuts. So a lot of Israelites, the wicked Israelites are short-sighted. So they don't see that. So they, whatever brings them joy and happiness is going to be for a short moment. But they're willing to commit treason. They're willing to commit treason because of where their treasure is, their heart is, which is right here on earth, on the things beneath. All right. They value the things of Esau, Edom. They value the riches of Esau, Edom. All right. And it brings them joy. That's something that you can never understand because your spirit is different than the spirit of a 2/3. All right. That's just how it is, man. All right. So Lord willing, we're part of the elect, man, and we continue to have the right mindset. All right. Let's finish with 1 John chapter 4, testing the spirits. Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirit whether they are of the Most High, because many false prophets are going out into the world. All right, so there's many false prophets that's going out into the world of Israel. Many. All right. Hereby know ye the spirit of the Most High. Every spirit that confesses that Yahweh Shai is coming in the flesh is of the Most High. So, of course, some of these guys use the name of Yahweh Bashim Shah. So the deception is at a high level. It's no longer, well, if he uses the name of Yahweh Bashim Shah, therefore he must be a true prophet. No, this is the end of the world. Like, Jake has to grow the F up. All right. Everything is heightened to its fullest extent. The deceivers and the deceiver are his. Deceivers are playing a high chess game right now. All right. They're playing a high chess game, 4D chess game. So you got to keep up. All right. But some of the signs are out there right in your face. And again, the one thing about false prophets, they can't help but be flamboyant. They can't help but reveal where their heart is, and where their treasure is, which it helps us in turn discern who truly serves the Lord and who doesn't. So hopefully you were edified with this lesson, exhortation, as I was, man, through the spirit of probably how about Shemel Shah, double honors to our apostles and elders of great millstone. Shalom and salutation, the artist and said Akim, elect across the four winds. Shalom.